you want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are up.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Not out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, bend and stoop. Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit. Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 36, which is how many years it's been since my last dance with Mary Jane. Joining us at the end of the show for our Groovin' After Party will be our very special guest, Russ Robinson from the Infectious Groove podcast, sharing his own personal musical journey with a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer? We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BendScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag SpinMomAndPop. Our record store of the week is a favorite of our special guest, Russ, Dearborn Music in Dearborn, Michigan. You can follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Dearborn Music. And you can check out their website at dearbornmusic.net. Athens, Georgia has given us so much great music over the years. From the B-52s to REM to this next band, The Glands, with one from their self-titled album back in 2000 called When I Laugh on Bend and Scoop.
I don't wanna see you saying hallelujah time. If anybody calls, I'll be sitting in my room and crying. It only hurts me when I laugh.
business.
Great stuff there from Guided by Voice's guitarist extraordinaire Doug Gillard, with the title track from his 2014 solo record, Parade On. On the new episode of Plausible Deniability, the podcast I co-host with my pal David Miller, we have an honest discussion about our ongoing struggles with weight. You can follow Plausible Deniability on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Pause Deny. Broken Arrow isn't just a classic Buffalo Springfield song or a ridiculous John Travolta movie. It's also a suburb of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's the home of singer-songwriter J.D. McPherson, who gives us this excellent tune from 2015's Let the Good Times Roll, which is neither a cover of the Tears for Fears song nor the Go-Go's song by the same name. Here's Head Over Heels on Bend and Scoop.
I got
are you doing to me here?
I'm not doing anything.
I thought we had a relationship here. I don't know what happened.
Business is terrible, Artie. What can I tell you? This is the truth.
I know business is terrible, but what happens with a record store with a promotion and nobody shows up?
This isn't a personal thing, Artie. Nobody's coming in the store.
Forget personal thing. We had a relationship here. Forget about personal. What about a relationship? And I don't know what's happening. It's me. That's what it's happening. It's me. I did it. It's my fault. I don't know.
Well, we were told massive radio support.
We did massive. We did massive. We saturated. We oversaturated.
Radio support.
That's what it is. It's me. I did it. I fucked up. I fucked up the timing. That's all. I fucked up the timing. I got no timing. I got no timing. You know what I want you to do? Will you do something for me?
What?
Do me a favor. Just kick my ass, okay? Kick this ass for a man. That's all. Kick my ass.
No.
Enjoy. Come on. I'm not asking. I'm telling with this.
From Amsterdam, that's Beans and Fatback. What a great name, with Bombshell, off their 2015 album, Heroin Lovestruck. Another podcast I'm part of is called Campfire Songs, where I get together with my buddies Tom, Todd, and Jim to share and discuss a couple of songs each. Follow us on Twitter at Songs Campfire and give us a listen. Speaking of the Campfire Songs gang, our ringleader Tom, aka Frozen Lazarus, introduced me to this next band on a recent episode of his phenomenal Putting on the Wrist podcast. From Falmouth, Cornwall, England, here's Holiday Ghosts from their eponymous 2017 debut with a song I haven't been able to stop listening to for the past week, Quiet Carriage, on Bend and Scoop.
sunshine, yeah. You are the reason we do what we do. You are the music we play. We do it for you on KFRC. You in the sunshine. You are the reason we are where we are today. You are the music we play. We play it for you on KFRC. Education is cool. Turn it on, please turn it up. Alex Trebek is from the North Pole. Alex, who is Alex? Who is Alex? Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Philosophy too. Turn it up, don't turn it off. Watching Alex will make you smile. Oh, Alex, who is Alex? Who is Alex? Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Alex Trebek is waiting for you. On TV, born in Sudbury, Ontario. He got a friend Fried on the show, who made history on Jeopardy. Oh, Alex, who is Alex? Who is Alex? Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Alex Trebek is waiting for you. Who's Alex? Who's Alex? Who's
Legendary indie rockers The Fleshtones there, with their loving musical tribute to the late great Jeopardy host and Connery nemesis, Alex Trebek. One of the very few questions Alex never asked his contestants is, have you ever wanted to host a podcast? Well, all you have to do to join the mic hunt and host your own episode of Assume the Juxtaposition is send me your topic idea to lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. You can follow Assume the Juxtaposition on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at AssumeTJPod. This next band is one I'd never heard of until some friends brought me along to one of their shows a few years ago, and I was totally blown away. Originally from Toronto, but now based out of Austin, here's Black Pistol Fire with something brand new off their 21 album Look Alive. This is Pick Your Poison on Bend and Scoop.
You'll find it written up all over my face. Hijacking hearts 'cause they know we
your first drummer was
The Beeper.
John Stumpy Pepys.
Oh, yeah.
Great, tall, blonde geek with glasses.
Yeah. Good drummer.
Great look, good drummer.
Good drummer.
Fine.
What happened to him?
He died. He died in a bizarre gardening accident some years back.
It's really one of those things. It was, the authorities said, best leave it.
It's not
unsolved, really.
And he was replaced by Stumpy Joe. Eric Stumpy Joe Childs. And what happened to Stumpy Joe?
Well, it's not a very pleasant story, but he died. He choked on. The official explanation was he choked on vomit.
It was actually someone else's vomit. It's not.
Exactly.
There's no real.
Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was. They don't have facilities in Scotland Yard to print.
You can't really dust for vomit.
Sailing down to Cuba, guns are in the galley. Someone's gotta shoot 'em. Away, away, oh, destiny awaits. Sailing to redemption, but they'll miss you back home in Ohio. Back in Ohio. You threw knives in the circus, now you're fighting in the jungle. You got babies in Miami, a rebel for a lover. Away, away, oh, destiny awaits. Sailing to redemption, they'll miss you back home in Ohio. Back in Ohio. Looking down the barrels of 20 loaded guns. All the letters written, all the fighting's been done. A man without a country ain't getting out alive. They never collect the bounty, and you're still left to pay the price. Away, away, oh, destiny awaits. Sailing to redemption, they'll miss you back home in. Away, away, oh, your destiny awaits. You're sailing to redemption, but they'll miss you back home in Ohio. Back in Ohio. Back in Ohio. Back in Ohio.
Memphis rockers Lucero there with Back in Ohio from 2021's When You Found Me. They've added some synths to the mix on that album, which is an interesting direction for their classic bar band sound. The very first podcast I was ever part of is still going strong today, called How Many, where my buddies Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott discuss and debate a variety of pop culture topics. including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow How Many on Twitter at HowManyPodcast and listen at HowManyPodcast.com. Don't forget to stick around for the end of the show, when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guest Russ Robinson from the Infectious Groove podcast. I just stumbled onto this guy a couple of days ago and really dig his sound. His name's Justin Sullivan, and he's been a drummer in several bands, but here he's performing under the name Night Shop with this awesome track from his 2018 album In the Break called The One I Love, here on Bend and Scoop.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sounds like you got yourselves a really swell band with your dead man shoes and your dying man stare. Can't see the floor for your dirty underwear. Margaret wasn't saying she was the only one. Timmy won a high when he sang her a song. Yes, it's true. On our Manhattan Avenue. Yes, love is big as planets in a force transcending. I'm only looking down just to get my balance. I always love the ones who never cared about talent. High-fi, low-fi, coming through your speakers. I never cared, so long as I can hear you. But you're headed for trouble now. You're headed for trouble now. And you, Briss, you better lose it. Joy and mystery, oh, they're out there on the streets. And I was rising from my seat when the thought occurred to me, what would I do without it? Well, I feel the patient grace of all humankind when I'm at the convenience store standing on the line. People stocking up just to try to feel good. It's a long weekend in a loud neighborhood. And Donna's the employee of the month this month. Could I be like her in the eyes of my love? Now I'm back on the blacktop, fireworks, crickets chirp. Won't you come meet me in the parking lot tonight? Make it worth your while. Yeah, tonight I'll make it worth your while. 'Cause I'm only really thinking of, oh, the one I love. I'm only really thinking of, oh, the one I love. I'm only really thinking of, oh, the one I love. I'm only really thinking of, oh, that one I love.
is the actual sound of a person who's just finished dining at Kingston's Seaway restaurant. Ooh. Ah. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Yes, the food at the Seaway restaurant is so good that you just can't resist expressing yourself. So take the whole family along for a delicious dinner to the restaurant that makes everyone say, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. The Seaway restaurant specializes in delicious southern fried chicken and steaks so good we could write a song about them. You'll feel the same way when you visit Kingston's Seaway restaurant. You know where it is, at Princess and McDonnell Streets. And is the food good? Ooh.
From Tulsa, right down the road from J.D. McPherson, who you heard earlier this episode, that was Bronco, with an H, off their 2013 record / Meg Ryan tribute, Can't Get Past the Lips, and a song called Try Me Out Sometime. Remember to be sure and check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it, and they have it, you can listen to it there. And if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Man, my back has been killing me all week. I sure hope I don't end up needing a spinal tap.
Very delicate. It's a bit of a departure from the kind of thing you normally play. What do you call this?
Well, this piece is called Lick My Love Pump.
This is the loudest,
Rock and roll!
most explosive band in heavy metal history. This is Spinal Tap.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever.
The funniest movie ever made about rock and roll.
He choked on vomit. Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was.
The monumental classic.
There was a Stonehenge monument on the stage that was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf.
The makeup of your audience seems to be young boys.
Well, it's a sexual thing, really.
We've got, armadillos in our trousers. I mean, it's really quite frightening.
No, don't touch
I was just pointing at it.
Well, don't point. I'm sure I'd feel much worse if I weren't under such heavy sedation.
The cult phenomenon.
The numbers all go to 11.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
This is Spinal Tap.
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining me now for our Groovin' After Party here on Bend and Scoop is Russ Robinson from the Infectious Groove podcast. Welcome, Russ.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Doing great, doing great. Tell us about Infectious Groove. It's a great podcast. I really enjoy it myself.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. We started just about a year ago, or actually like a year ago last week, and we broke it up into seasons over the first year. So we kind of did, I think it was somewhere around 30 some episodes for the first season, and then took a little bit of a break and did another 30 episodes for the second season. And we actually are just coming off of our break from the second season. So by the time your listeners hear this, our season 3 premiere will be out, and we really go all over the map. If you've heard the show, we do things from we do some album reviews, like straight up album reviews and whatnot, but we do a lot of topical things, like everything from an open discussion about cell phones at concerts to the best music festival you've ever been to or seen, or a festival you'd like to see, or the first album you bought, or artists who you haven't seen in concert yet. Just roundtable type discussions. And one thing that I love that we do is every week we talk about what it is that we're listening to, because there's so many people out there that always say, fill in the blank as far as genre, oh, there's no good rock anymore. There's no good country anymore. There's no good rap anymore. And it's out there. You just have to go look for it a little bit harder now, because what's more now today than ever, what's put out in the mainstream, is commercially viable, but really isn't what like a music lover wants. So you have to go out and find that stuff more. So we want to kind of put an end to that, where people say, oh, there's no good this anymore. So we're trying to spread that out. And we've had a lot of, to my surprise, some really great interviews. People approach us over the past year and want to talk to us. And I've been stunned by that, and the diversity in that too. I talked to a member of the Jackson family. We had Steve Gorman on, who was the drummer for the Black Crowes, whom I'm a huge Black Crowes fan. We had metal legend Jeff Scott Soto. Like we really like had it all over the map, which has been great for us. And then I promise I'll stop rambling here in a second. The most recent thing that we launched was our YouTube channel, which a lot of podcasts will just put the audio from their show on YouTube, but I have what I would feel is an extensive vinyl collection, and it's really diverse. So we've been putting up videos every Thursday of just a look into my vinyl collection, some of the rarer pressings, or even ones that different versions of things people might not know are out. And a couple of videos I've done where, because vinyl gets so expensive with the boom that's been going on for about a decade now, I just give kind of an open and honest thing, like, hey, I bought this pressing before the boom happened. This is worth paying what you see on the aftermarket for, or this is not worth paying. Like, don't go out and pay hundreds of dollars for this record. Right. That type of thing. So, and for that, anybody that's interested in the vinyl aspect of the show, you can just go to youtube.com/Infectious Groove podcast and find the channel and subscribe.
Well, you and our podcast have very similar MOs, because definitely very focused on vinyl here. And also the main objective really is to get people to listen to music and artists that they may not be aware of. And I'm right there with you. It's been probably about 20 or so years ago when I just finally got sick of not liking anything I heard on the radio anymore. And with the advent of the internet and online streaming and everything else, it's just now more than ever, you're really able to access readily a lot more different types of music and artists than ever before. So that's definitely what I focus on here with this podcast as well. And
yeah.
I listened to, especially the most recent episode you guys had. You've got 2 co-hosts, correct? Beside yourself?
Yeah. Michelle and Kyle. They're a couple. Recently, they've been together for a couple of years, but I've known Michelle for coming up on 20 years. So we've got a lot of history there.
Yeah. And they had a great banter back and forth, kind of giving each other a hard time. And the thing I wanted to point out, I mean, wasn't the focal point of your episode, but the discussion about Alto Reed. So for those who are listening that don't know who Alto Reed was, he passed away. He was the saxophonist for Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. I love Bob Seger, but other than maybe Like a Rock, Turn the Page, I cannot stand Turn the Page. And the reason being is primarily because of overexposure. And in high school, I'm a bit older. I'm in my mid 50s. So that album came out like while I was in junior high or high school, and everybody loved that song. And particularly that sax riff was like a steel-toed Doc Martin to my crotch. Every time I heard it, it just made me crumble. And all my friends were like, "You're an idiot. That's the best song ever." And I'm like, "All right, look." But what really kind of is crazy to me is that name, right? So it's either the most genius or most ridiculous, or probably both, stage name of any musician I mean, he's a saxophonist and his name is Alto Reed.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm a drummer and my name's Tim Panny, right? I mean, it's like he went for the most obvious, but it's still, there's something kind of great about it. I don't know why I've zoomed in so much on that portion of the discussion, but
sure. But no, I hear what you say. And it's funny, being based out of Detroit here, there's like certain things. It's like, Cheap Trick or the Pumpkins if you're based out of Chicago. Everybody assumes that you just love that band. And I grew up, and I wouldn't say I dislike Seeger, but same thing as what you're saying. As soon as that sax hit, oh boy, here we go. And especially here in Michigan, not just the overplaying on the radio. We're talking every birthday, every graduation, every school dance. That song came out, and every time you just be like, "Oh my God, could you stop?" But it also is one of those songs that's reinvented itself to me over time, like because of streaming or me getting siloed into what I just want to listen to and backing way away from radio where you don't have to hear the song every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, if it happens to come on, or if we put on, 9 Tonight or Live Bullet or something, I don't mind it now because it's not beat into me all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. The Seeger that hasn't been, I mean, there's a few, like, I still love Night Moves. I still love Hollywood Nights. There's some that I think are immune to overexposure, but that one in particular, it's just something about that sax just drains every piece of energy from my body.
I used to work at Best Buy back in the mid 90s. And at the time they had just put out Seeger's Greatest Hits or something for whatever reason. Turn the Page was on like the corporate in-store. And there was a guy that worked in the media department, like back when, Best Buy sold CDs and whatnot. And every time that saxophone hit, you would hear him across the store go, "Shut up, Bob." Like, so mad. But again, nationally, if you're in LA, Florida, Texas, whatever, and you're in a Best Buy and you hear that, I remember that from the 70s. Well, a Best Buy here in Detroit, we're all like, "Oh boy."
Oh gosh. And of course, vinyl, you mentioned that you have an extensive collection, and that's perfect for our next segment, because this is where we're going to learn a little bit more about your own personal musical journey, Russ. And we're going to play around of, is that your vinyl answer? And you even mentioned this question being one you guys had focused on before on your podcast. What was the first record that you ever bought with your own money?
So, okay, this is kind of tricky for me because when I came up, almost everything that I got before the CD boom hit would have all been things that I wanted, but were definitely purchased by my parents. I tagged along to a Walmart visit or whatever. So the first time I bought music with my own money was on the CD format. And I bought 3 albums in one day. I saved up enough money to where I bought my very first CD player from, I don't know if this is a national thing, but we had a chain up here called Highland Appliance.
Yeah, we used to have Highland Appliance back in like the 90s and 80s. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. So for, the month prior, I kept looking at their ad every week, and I saw this one CD player that I wanted for, $119, and finally saved that up. And I saved up that enough money to get that and 3 CDs. So I went to Highland Appliance and bought my CD player. Then we went across the parking lot to Kmart, and I purchased my first 3 CDs with my own money. Okay. And it was Whitesnake's, the self-titled album, Still of the Night.
87, I think was the
year. So I purchased that, Heart, Bad Animals, and LL Cool J, Bigger and Deffer.
Boy, you really kind of covered the spectrum there with those 3.
Yeah. And actually, I won't go into the long version of the story, but there was an incident in purchasing that where the cashier felt the need to tell my mother that she scanned the White Snake and she scanned the Heart, and then she stopped on LL Cool J and wanted to warn my mother that she should be careful with me listening to those people.
Whoa.
And the very short version is that if you drive to where that Kmart was now, there's still a giant burn mark on the floor from where my mom lit this woman up one side and down the other. So yeah, it was
good for your mom.
I'm standing there at like 11 years old being like, I think I'm going to have to call the police on my own mom. You know, it got rough, but yeah, anyways. So yeah, you know, Heart definitely in their pop rock phase at that point. You know, White Snake, that was enormous. And then the LL Cool J record, the only thing I had heard off of it was I Need Love. And I didn't know that he had rap that went into more what I already liked, which was like the Run DMC aspect, like the rap rock aspect. Yeah. So that record was a joy for me to listen to because I bought it for one song and then loved the whole rest of the album way more than I loved the song I bought it for.
You mentioned Kmart being where you bought it. Another store that really, I guess, technically doesn't really exist anymore. There may be some variations of it out there, but that was a big store back in the day here as well. Now, do you still have any or all of those CDs?
No, I have those on vinyl now, but the original CDs that I bought would have been somewhere. I probably did have them up until like 98 or 99 or so. And then, you know, 2-3 moves later, you start paring down your collection, you know, and whatever. Because at one point I had got up to a point where I had something like 5,000 or 6,000 CDs. And, wow. You know, you just end up being like, okay, this all can't move with me every single time, you know. And also at the time was when really ripping your own collection digitally started to really become a thing. So I ripped, you know, so much of that stuff just to keep digital copies of it, and then, you know, unload the originals. I do have some LPs from when I was a kid or my mom's pressings of certain things. It's a very select few. It's only 3 or 4, but I do have a couple of LPs from them, but they don't qualify for the what did you buy with your own money collection. Do you happen to remember what the first one was you asked your parents to get for you? Oh yes. Elvis Elvis as recorded at Madison Square Garden. Oh wow. And we were in a Perry drugstore. Again, this is back when you could openly buy music everywhere, as opposed to it, you know, being in the dark corner of some store and having less than the top 10 that's available. And I was all of 3 years old, and they had the music section was right off of the registers. And I just remember looking across, and I don't know if you've seen the cover for Madison Square Garden, but Elvis looks about 3,000 feet tall on the cover, and he's wearing his jumpsuit and he's got a cape on, so he looked like a superhero to me. He looked kind of like Evel Knievel or something, right? Yeah. Very, very, very. Like when I was a kid and I saw Evel Knievel, I was like, "You're ripping off Elvis," you know. Like, but I remember being like, "Mom, can I get that?" My mom was a huge Elvis fan, so she was like, "Yes, of course," you know. And that album actually has a whole lot to do with who I became musically, like how diverse I became. Yeah. Because he opens with That's All Right on there. You know, of course he's going to open with his own song, but then in the next like 4 or 5 songs, he does CCR, the Righteous Brothers, Dusty Springfield. The diversity in like the first 5 tracks got me to, you know, go in, and I started, you know, at 5 years old, I'm going back and looking for Dusty Springfield records, and people are like, who is this kid? You know, so that record ended up really preparing me for being open to so much different type of music. And of course, that would have been right after Elvis died, probably just a year or 2 after, right around that time. Yeah, it would have been, about a year. About a year after. I think 77 was when he passed away. Russ, which band or artist albums do you own the most? Who makes up the largest portion of your collection? It's probably going to be a 2-way tie between Pink Floyd and Elvis. Pink Floyd, I have, of course, all their studio records, but then I have a ton of box sets and bootlegs and live shows, and Pink Floyd is one of those bands that can get my money no matter what they reissue. I'm gonna buy it. They can put the same album out with a different cover art, or I'm the reason why Pink Floyd can get away with just doing things like that, because I'm the guy that will run out and buy it.
Remasters, everything. Huh?
I mean, yes, everything. For give you an example, I have an upcoming YouTube video where I lament about the fact that the new 3 LP reissue of The Delicate Sound of Thunder is terrible, and everyone should get the 2 LP version of Delicate Sound of Thunder, and yet I still bought the 3 LP version of Delicate Sound of Thunder.
A true completist.
Yeah, like here's me in the video holding 2 copies and being like, don't buy this thing that I bought, But then Elvis for me is a little different, because for me personally, Elvis Presley's career didn't even start till 1969. The average Elvis fan really likes the 56 to 68, and for me, artistically, 69 to 71 is it. If you go look at my Elvis collection, I probably have, I don't know, 10 different LPs of live shows from just those 2 years. And then I have the commercially released stuff that came out from 72 to 77.
Moody Blue, stuff like that.
Yeah. If you look at Elvis's career, you can, there's a definite split where when him and Priscilla broke up, the songs that he'd been doing from 56 to 68 were all, happy-go-lucky and, Stuck on You and all these happy-go-lucky songs. And then when him and Priscilla separated, his set list becomes Make the World Go Away, There Goes My Everything, Bridge Over Troubled Water, You've Lost That Love and Feeling, and it's a guy who's using someone else's words, but expressing them in such a way that you're just like, even a total outsider would be like, what was this guy going through at the time, and all those songs are just classics in their own right. And then his rendition of them is just gut wrenching.
Yeah. He really had a good feel for picking and choosing other people's material to record and perform. Yeah, for sure. And he gets a lot of crap for that. A lot of people, Elvis never wrote a song, or, Elvis was a glorified cover artist. Well, to me, there's more to it than that. Yeah. It's how you, let me put it this way, with zero disrespect to Simon and Garfunkel and zero disrespect to the Righteous Brothers, I will listen to Elvis's version of Bridge Over Troubled Water or You've Lost That Love and Feeling 10 times out of 10 before I ever listen to the originals again. Yeah, because of his rendition. Yeah, his interpretation is definitely, it's not just a rote cover. Yeah, absolutely. And there were a few strays in there. There's a couple of songs between like 70 and 77 where you're like, boy, he sure didn't want to sing this. But by and large, Make the World Go Away, There Goes My Everything, these country classics, he just reinvents and is screaming them. And it's a guy who just really, if you even start to dig into it, you're like, man, he knew he screwed up with her. Like, he really knew. And then I guess the last one, like coming in third barely, would be just an overall arcing Michael Jackson between the Jackson 5, the Jacksons, and his solo material. I have if he stood in front of a microphone, I have it. So for Pink Floyd and Elvis, what would be your favorite album for each of those two? Well, for Elvis, overall, it's got to be As Recorded at Madison Square Garden. For a number of reasons, it was the first LP that I ever got. Point. Yeah. We talk about that a lot, about Entry Point being really influential on what you choose as your favorite of a certain artist's catalog. Oh, for sure. And again, I owe so much of my own musical legacy to the first 5 tracks on that record. Because, by 8 years old, I was like well-versed in CCR and, the Righteous Brothers and Dusty Springfield, because Elvis is doing You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. And his version, I was like, well, let me find this, and whatever. So overall, easily, that would be from him. And then for Pink Floyd, The Wall, which was also my entry point for Pink Floyd. And my older brothers have never made a worse choice in their entire life. But when Floyd put out A Momentary Lapse of Reason in 87, the MTV did a whole Pink Floyd weekend where they were, playing old concert stuff and whatever else. My folks were out for the night and my 2 older brothers and I were home alone, and I'd never heard Pink Floyd in my entire life. And I was just walking through the house and my brothers had MTV on, and the scene in The Wall
where the children are falling into the meat grinder
Yeah.
was on. And I was either 11 or 12. And as you might imagine, that's scary to walk in the room and see. And so I went running from the room, and my brothers, being older brothers, literally tracked me down, beat me up, and took me back and forced me to watch more of the movie. Being like, oh, he's scared. This is gonna be great. It's gonna give him nightmares. Well, 3-4 days later, I'm humming all of these lines to these songs that I heard in the movie, and went and did what you do at that time, borrowed the cassette from a friend of mine's cooler older brother, who had the wall, and just fell in love, just absolutely fell in love. And then the first actual Pink Floyd record that I bought was The Delicate Sound of Thunder, because they put out the live album to go after and that, again, just like the Elvis thing, it's more or less a greatest hits package. So, One of These Days is on there. That caused me to go back and buy Metal. Shine On is on there. That caused me to go back and listen to Wish You Were Here. But that first exposure, The Wall, is just, that's a Desert Island album. Of any artist, if I had to go to a desert island and have one album with me, it would be The Wall.
Excellent choice. Is there any particular album that you've purchased the most over the years, either to replace or just to multiple formats?
The Wall. Yeah, because when I first got into it, the first thing I bought was the old long box Columbia yellow. I don't know if you remember, Columbia was famous for the red, the block letters on the side of their cassettes.
That's right.
Well, their long box CDs were like yellow with the cover art and the super cool scan of a CD on the bottom. Like the most unoriginal art direction ever for some of these masterworks. It was like a clip art CD on the bottom. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so I bought that first, and then probably a year or two after I got into Floyd, Mobile Fidelity put out a CD version of The Wall, so I had to go buy that, of course. Same album, but you have to have it. And then over the years, and again, this goes back to I'll buy anything Pink Floyd puts their name on. They've reissued The Wall 3 or 4 different times on LP, so I always buy the reissue whenever they do it. And then they did an immersion box set of The Wall that was like a 7 or 8 CD set that had the album and some demos and things like that, and live album in it and whatnot. And of course I bought that and whatnot. So hands down, like The Wall easily is the one. Off the top of my head, I've probably rebought that record 10 times in different formats.
Now, I normally ask this next question, but I think I may already know the answer as far as who has the largest vinyl collection among your friends and family. It's got to be you, right?
Yeah, it's me. I'm just a hair. I just 2 days ago, I went to the record store and bought the new Mayer Hawthorne LP, and they reissued Sam Cooke Live at the Copa, which is one that I could never find. There's a lot of originals out there, but it's one of those records that's just I call it well loved. Beat up pretty good. And so I just went and bought that. And when I went to catalog it, I noticed that those 2 records put me just shy of 1,400. So
very nice.
Yeah. And Kyle on our show, Kyle is just now, like over the past 6 months, just started collecting LPs. And so he'll end up getting a ton. And but I have a couple of friends that have some really, and the cool thing is the friends that I have they have some of the same stuff I have, but they have a lot of diverse stuff that I either would never buy on my own or haven't even heard yet.
Yeah.
So we have every single Friday, actually this past Friday was just marked the 8-year anniversary of every single Friday. We have people over to our house to play records, and it's openly encouraged for people to dig through my bins, but also bring what you like. I've probably bought in the past 8 years, I've probably bought at least 100 records that somebody brought to music night. We call it music night. And that I was like, well, I have to go to the record store tomorrow and own this. And I like to think that I've also launched 1,000 chips. I have one friend who will sit and create his Amazon cart like throughout music night, like any record that, gets pulled. And he's just like, oh man, this one was an expensive night, So
that's awesome, man. I've got a buddy who does this, and he's got some friends with vinyl. I'm probably going to try to start getting in on his. My collection's starting to get big enough to be able to participate. So
right on.
It should be good. It should be good. Now, Russ, do you have a either current or all-time favorite record store, mom and pop place?
Yeah, absolutely. Here in Michigan, let me back up and say that in the Detroit area, there is an embarrassing amount of really good record stores, and some of them are very siloed. Like we literally, I can take you to a place right now where all you're going to find is electronica, you know, and EDM, but you're going to find all of it there. You know, and then there's other stores that specialize strictly in R&B. There's one store here in Detroit that only sells 45s and only Detroit R&B artists.
Wow.
Yeah. And you go in and you think, well, obviously more than half of this is other. Nope. It's all any Detroit artist you've never heard of is in this place. But having said that, there's a place happens to be close to my house, but I used to live about an hour from it, and I would drive there even to get there. It's called Dearborn Music, family owned place. They've been in business since '56, and just a great place, great people. Their owner, he's the kind of guy that will text me and say, the Pink Floyd thing. Hey, I just got these Pink Floyd bootlegs in. Like, do you need these? You know, like he'll give me the heads up, you know. And actually, if you go to the YouTube channel, the very first video that we posted is kind of like a tour of my whole vinyl area. 2 of my record bins came from, after 50 years in the same location, they moved to a different place, and they didn't have room for 2 of their record tables. Yeah. And the owner said, you know, hey, do you have room for these? I will make room for those. You know, those bins have been selling records for 50 years. Hell yeah. So we moved those here. My records are in them. And then as the collection grows, I just measure them off and build new ones, you know, like identical copy of those. But 2 of my record bins were in a record store for 50 years, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dearborn Music, man, that place is fantastic. And they have online presence. If anybody's listening and they'd like to check them out, you can find them. I think it's dearbornmusic.net. But if you're ever in the Detroit area, that's the place I would tell you to stop first for sure.
Well, one of the things that I do every episode is I try to spotlight a different record store each week and do a record store of the week. So Dearborn, we'll have to make them the record store of the week this week when we're airing this episode. Because,
heck yeah.
Yep.
I was just there 2 days ago. That's where I bought the new Mayor Hawthorne LP and the new or in the reissue of the Sam Cooke LP.
That is fantastic. So Russ, before we wrap up, let's get all of the ways folks can reach you and the podcast on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, the website, all that good stuff.
Right on. So Facebook and YouTube, you can just go to facebook.com or youtube.com/Infectious Groove Podcast. Twitter and Instagram are just Infectious Groove Pod. But now it's the easiest way to find us anywhere is just to go to infectiousgroovepodcast.com, because all of the links for everything you need is there, including on the right side, like every podcast outlet you've ever heard of is on the right side, and you can just click on whatever icon whether you Podcast Addict, Spreaker, whatever you use, you can click on it. It'll take us right to us, and you can hit subscribe for the show. But specific to your audience, I think your audience would really enjoy the YouTube channel, probably first and foremost, because all the vinyl videos are on there, and I'm actually starting now to upload some of our older, more popular interviews. I'm just putting the audio up on YouTube as well for people to listen to on there. So, but if you go to infectiousgroovepodcast.com, you can find links to pretty much everything. You can find us everywhere through there.
It's fantastic. Now, what do we have in store for season 3? You said that's going to be coming up here real soon, right?
Yeah. So we actually, on January 25th, season 3 kicks off, and we kind of did one of those clip shows like you hear in radio, where we did, I pulled a bunch of clips of like some funny and cool moments that happened over the past year.
Yeah.
And we replayed them to kind of remind ourselves of things that have happened and discussed them. But I'm really excited about what we have to share in episode 2, which will be out on February 1st. I had the very, very, very great opportunity to sit down and talk to Bill Champlin from Chicago. And well, it was in Chicago from 80 to 2009. And he has a solo record that just came out on January 25th. And we talked, his amazing songwriting history. We talked Chicago. We talked real in depth about his new album that came out. And, he shared some really personal things about the lyrics that he wrote for this record, and shared some, this guy had a hand in writing After the Love Is Gone by Earth, Wind and Fire. And he shared a whole story about him and David Foster and Maurice White, writing that song. So I'm really excited about that. And then, the current plan is we're going to continue on. We have a whole laundry list of music related topics that we can do roundtable whenever. But, and this is embarrassing in a good way, we keep having these things fall in our lap where people will get a hold of us that we never dreamed would want to come on our show for any reason. So we always, kind of roll with that and just have our normal topics in the background. And then if somebody happens to reach out to us, we will put that interview in the can and share it with everybody. So
fantastic.
That's what's coming up.
You guys are on a weekly schedule, right?
Yeah. We come out every Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. So wherever you're at in the world, at some point on Monday, you get a new episode from us. And then I was surprised when I went back through the archives. We had 65 episodes in the first year because there was actually a fun thing when the lockdowns first happened. Yeah. We had a lot of listeners reach out to us and go, hey, everyone's sitting around doing nothing. Is there any way you guys could come up with bonus content? So off the top of our head, we very quickly put together an album tournament of sorts where Kyle brought 8 albums that he picked to the tournament. I brought 8 albums, and we argued our points against which record is better. And then Michelle did the final judgment over which album would move on in the tournament. So there were like 16 bonus episodes where there was a short time where we were doing 2 episodes a week, which was a lot, but we have vowed that we're not going to put ourselves through that again anytime soon. So as of right now, everybody can expect 1 per week, but there's plenty of stuff you can go back and listen to.
Well, it's a great way to start the week. Got to tell you, I really love your podcast, man. It's fantastic. And you guys have a good chemistry. I really appreciate you coming on, Russ. Thanks so much for being on.
I appreciate the compliments. It's funny because it's one of those things where Michelle and I have known each other for, like I say, we're coming up on 20 years, and people have always, if we're at parties or whatever else, people will just laugh at, Michelle and I's banter and chemistry and whatnot. And so it's like, we didn't even realize when we started the show, like that's the number one compliment we get is all the chemistry and the banter. And so now it's like, well, man, we could have been doing this a long time ago. we had 18 years we could have been doing this before. So I very much appreciate that. And I'm happy to come on your show. This is great for me.
Thanks so much.
Right on, man.
Bye-bye, lard ass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.